This podcast and the following message are brought to you by Smart Pixel. Turn your website's anonymous visitors into engaged customers. Smart Pixel turns your anonymous website visitors into fully identified first-party consumer data. When this match and identification takes place, Smart Pixel can return up to 300 attributes on the consumer. You get name, postal address, email, gender, and date of birth, plus more specific details like home ownership, vehicle ownership, political party affiliation, presence of children in the household, and many more. Smart Pixel, real-time information about your website visitors, easy to install, and fully GDPR and CCPA compliant. Find out more by going to autoconverse.com/smartpixel. That's www.autoconverse.com/SMARTPIXL. And thank you.
And we're investing almost $100 billion in public transit and rail. For all the studies show that it will take millions of cars off the road and significantly reduce pollution if there's a serious transportation system available.
That was President Biden, of course, explaining his idea of taking millions of cars off the road to reduce pollution with a serious transportation system by investing almost $100 billion into our nation's infrastructure. And to think that all this time governments have been pushing automakers towards electric vehicles for the same reason. So which is it? Replace gas-powered vehicles with electric vehicles, or just get cars off the roads altogether? It's a double-edged sword no matter which way you look at it, and unfortunately all we get to hear is the rhetoric, not the actual game plans. Maybe old Joe knows best, but I sense that most Americans are seriously doubting that. From Autoverse Media, this is AutoConverse. Hey, we got a good show lined up for you today.
Oh, well, I'm a Game of Thrones nut, so that's my jam.
The robots are listening. The robots are listening.
All right, and welcome to another episode of the AutoConverse podcast, where we explore people, ideas, and technologies that influence how we are connected and the way we get around. I am Ryan Girardi. It's great, as always, to be here with you. We are at the halfway point of 2022, and it's a good opportunity to check in with your New Year's resolutions. If you want to scrub off a 0 from the number of books that you plan to read, I won't say anything. Stocks this week have been about as directionless as a lost dad who refuses to ask for help, dipping lower and lower without much market news. But here's some news. Robinhood shares popped after a Bloomberg report claimed that the crypto exchange FTX is debating whether it might be able to buy the trading app. Sam Bankman-Fried, the CEO of FTX, already owns 7.6% of Robinhood, so we'll keep an eye on that. Now, while many employees in the battered crypto sector are dreading that 4 p.m. calendar invite on a Friday, the same could probably be said for people working in the mortgage industry. A cooling housing market has everyone from traditional mortgage lenders to hot startups dumping staff faster than you can say market conditions. Last week, JP Morgan laid off 1,000 employees from its home lending division, and Wells Fargo cut hundreds of employees in April after its mortgage revenue fell 33% from Q1 2021 to 2022. Now, gas prices this week are down an average of about $4.88. They were averaging about $4.97 last week, and they were over $5 a gallon the week before. This is national average. Where I am here in Chicagoland, we were seeing gas prices approaching the $6 mark. They have gone down to the I think under $5.50. So they clearly have dropped. Now the oil is coming down because the people who control the price of a barrel across the world, they know that most Americans are really starting to reach their limit and cutting back. I, for one, have been trying to minimize a lot of my driving if I can as well. So, of course, the oil producers don't want to end up in an oil glut. So it is coming down a little bit, but not significantly. It's curious. I had conversations with folks. I speculate that gas prices will probably never fall below $5 a gallon. But they have, on average, they have. But I don't expect them to go much more. I would not be surprised if they go up. There's so much effort, I think, internationally and definitely within the current administration to really punch the oil business in the gut. And get a move on electric cars, which is a theme or a subject that we cover here extensively. We won't really get into electric cars today. We're going to focus mostly on cryptocurrency, in fact, and a little bit about inflation. Speaking of inflation, economists say inflation's up about 7 to maybe 8% annually, compared to about 1 to 1.5% annually during the previous administration. But with gas prices up seriously more than 70%, food prices in grocery stores, easily surpassing 50%, used car prices up at least 40% all over the last year, I would argue that inflation seems far higher than 8%. Inflation drama is even hitting Hollywood. On location production executives and studio operators tell The Hollywood Reporter that supply chain snarls are driving up the cost of wood and steel that are needed to build film and TV sets by as much as 30%. Costs have gone up for equipment across the board. That includes fuel for electrical equipment, uh, and anything related to that. So in many cases, these higher costs are in addition to budgets that are already bloated from COVID, protective gear, testing, safety protocols, which added up an additional 5 to 20% in expenses. So now, Toyota is set to slash global production of motor vehicles due to the semiconductor shortage, which we covered extensively in 2021, but have shifted away from. But yeah, the chip shortage is still affecting manufacturing. The news comes as Samsung pledges to invest about $360 billion over the next 5 years to bolster chip production, along with other strategic sectors. Toyota said it's had to lower the production schedule by tens of thousands of units globally from the numbers it provided to suppliers at the beginning of the year. And this has resulted in the suspension of manufacturing in May and in June for 16 Toyota production lines across 10 plants and 28 lines across 14 plants. And Toyota's not the only one, but I would say they, volume-wise, they're cutting production more than any other manufacturer. Airbnb is permanently banning parties after temporarily doing so in August of 2020 as a public health safety precaution during the pandemic. And the company announced the codification of the ban in a blog post. Last year, it suspended the accounts of over 6,000 users, about 6,600 users out of 150 million for violating the ban. But even before the pandemic, Airbnb was slowly altering the policy banning party houses in 2019 after 5 people died during a Halloween event in California. Airbnb is also lifting a 16-person occupancy limit, saying there are numerous properties that can comfortably host more than 16 people. And retail workers are not feeling safe. Many retail workers have long considered their jobs thankless, but a growing number worry the occupation is becoming dangerous too. Of assaults referred to the FBI by law enforcement from 2018 to 2020, the number taking place in grocery and convenience stores rose 63% and 75%, respectively. And this is reported by the New York Times. More than half of active shooter attacks last year occurred at retail locations. There's something in the air, says one Washington State Safeway worker, citing on-edge customers. People are angry and frustrated and take it out on workers. So SEC and Ripple. Brad Garlinghouse, he's the CEO of Ripple. He's affirmed a move outside the U.S. if the payment giant loses its lawsuit with the SEC. Ripple's been embroiled in a legal battle defending its sale of XRP and the altcoin's position as a non-security since December of 2020. And analysts maintain that a bullish outlook on XRP price despite recent developments. The SEC has slammed payment giant Ripple with a lawsuit And since then, the community and holders have closely followed the lawsuit and relevant updates, and the community is awaiting key judgments in the case. So, like I said, if it doesn't go Ripple's way, they expect to be leaving the SEC. All right. Well, believe it or not, that is a wrap for this episode. We had a great show this week with crypto social author Alan Taylor and his pal Scott Cunningham, who's a YouTube creator that runs the channel Crypto and Things. You just heard the opening segment from that show, but over the next few weeks, we'll be giving you highlights from Alan's interview with Scott, talking about earnings from crypto social media. The three of us also had a great discussion talking about SpaceX now accepting Dogecoin as a form of payment for merchandise, Hyundai Card and their new NFT marketplace, but more importantly, the Responsible Financial Innovation Act being proposed by the Senate, which calls for legal definitions of digital assets and virtual currencies. Alan Taylor was on the show with me back in April as well, talking about his new book, Crypto Social, How Cryptocurrencies Are Changing Social Media. That is another conversation you can expect to hear more of in the coming weeks, along with highlights from my conversations with three incredible women in the tech industry, Brandy Kolaski, Michelle Dillard, and Kelly Saunders, who were on the show with me back in March during International Women's History Month. There's a lot going on in the world, and we're trying to capture as much of it as we can. We're trying to get it all out to you as quickly as we can as well. Remember, text the keyword AutoConverse to 855-766-7585. We'll send you a link to get subscribed to the AutoConverse YouTube channel. That way you can be more in the know about our live shows and have easier access to the full video replays of the things that you hear on this podcast. I know stocks are down, and I know the cryptocurrencies are as well, but hey, if you are a Doge holder, well, to the moon. We're still rooting for you. Take care, everyone, and hope you have a great weekend and a great 4th of July. This is Autoburst Media.